Hey, welcome to the Infinity Bros podcast, the only podcast that is perfectly balanced, as all things should be. I'm your host, Max Mosier, here, back again with you to grace your earwaves. I'm here with two other Infinity Bros today. On my screen to the left, it is, for some, they think he's my arch nemesis. For others, they think he is the jelly to my peanut butter. It is Mark Jones. Mark, how are you?
I'm great. You're the heel to my baby face. And we're destined to do this forever until I heel turn and you become babyface. There it is.
I still don't understand the dichotomy of like the origin of heel and babyface. I've tried to understand it as time goes on, but I respect the bit.
Well, babyface is like, the crowd loves the babyface. Anything the babyface can do is like amazing. And then like the heel is like the bad guy. And everyone,
yeah,
like,
for
the
sure.
whole,
Then you are the babyface.
The crowd like boos the bad guy, but really the bad guy gets the most like appreciation in the end of the day. Like they have like the easier job in a sense. I don't know. I'm not a wrestler, so maybe I shouldn't talk about
that. Feels like a backhanded compliment, but thank you. I'll take it.
Anything for you, babe. And
he's coaching up the Storm right now. It's his fourth or fifth varsity season here, Robbie, for you. This is year four. This is year four for Robbie. He has not gotten any tanner, but he is outside half the day. It's Robbie Sauter. Robbie, how are you?
As another guy who also watched wrestling in the 90s, I understand the heel and babyface reference. And the reason that it's easier to be the heel is because as soon as you turn, now you're the good guy. Because when the babyface turns, it's really easy to hate him now. But it's really good to see someone go from bad to good. But when you go good to bad, that's tough. It's tough for people to accept that. You got to understand. Max, you need to go back and watch some. You need to go back and you need to watch some early 90s, late 90s, early 2000s wrestling. Yeah. We'll send you some.
There's something about wrestling that this crowd just loves a good wrestling story. But you didn't come here for wrestling. You came here to hear about She-Hulk today. We are going to break down everything. What's up?
We'll let the people decide if they came here for wrestling.
Sure, yeah. The people can decide whatever, yeah. She-Hulk, we're going to break down episode 1. As I was saying before, I was rudely interrupted by oh my gosh, words are hard, by Robbie.
You start.
Good to be back.
Words
no, we're not going to restart.
By Robbie.
We're going to keep it in. Apparently, our best episode of all time was when Isaac and Zane were on. Before we get into that, Robbie, your thoughts that Zane would be on the best episode of the Infinity Bros podcast in terms of views?
Okay, so our reviews all came from Samsung Podcast. Zane is now the only one in our group that has a Samsung phone. I have now switched to the Google phone.
Oh, well, good for you.
So I'm just assuming that he paid Samsung some sort of sum of money and was like, oh, they think I'm a joke. I'm the Enigma. Watch this go for 700 views. And that's what happened.
So you think this is a long-term
It's a conspiracy, yeah. My conspiracy is that Zane pulled off a view heist. And every time he's on, the views are going to skyrocket. And every time he's not, we'll
take it, right? Like we're not ashamed of it. We'll take it. Big spike. This has been our biggest month of listening. So we're thankful if you're new listening to our show. We're thankful you're here, and we hope you consider subscribing to our show. Additionally, you might want to check out our Patreon, where we spent 30 minutes talking about a bunch of things before this. We talk about Sandman. We talk about Umbrella Academy. Mark and I dove into a little bit of behind the scenes, our friendship. Mark made some accusations that are egregious, but Mark will act like he didn't say them. And you could get to hear about the great.
Anything I say is based in fact, and sometimes I get a little outrageous, but it's never a lie.
Nonetheless, if you want to hear about another Zane conspiracy, check out our Patreon this week for episode 131. I will leave it at that as a simple tease for you to check out.
I love how you call it a conspiracy when in reality
that was not a conspiracy.
Robbie and I know what happened.
Sure, yes.
But everyone else will have to turn it into a conspiracy.
Forgive me. It's not a conspiracy. I misled the people.
Zane, Mark, and I are now the trinity of holding this information together. We're the trinity, and it's just right here. And
find out what this sacred information is by subscribing to our Patreon. You can check out.
You will not find out because we're not going to ruin our friend's life.
You won't, but you could get more context. $100,
and I'll tell you.
Well, what's the low number that you'd get to tell the message, Robbie?
Ooh, that's a good question. I would take your PC for it.
It's too bad. All right. Before we do that, I want to get into an iTunes rating that has not been brought up yet. You can subscribe to us on iTunes, as Robbie said, on your Samsung phone, on Podbean, on Spotify, wherever you're listening to podcasts, you can check us out. This one comes from Reagan GD. He says, bunch of guys being guys. He says, love the insight Max and the guys bring to the table, all things nerd. Love the community and love the community. I think he meant to say they, but he wrote the. Love the love the community. I think he meant they create and the content they create. There you go. It's a 5-star review.
And that's a 5-star reading, Max. Good job.
There you go. Yep. Words are hard. I have made a vow that for a couple more reviews, I'm not allowed to be rude about them. So I'm going to give that a 4 out of 6 simply because they didn't mention Zane. Robbie, go ahead.
Guys
being guys.
I like that guy. So guys being guys, 5.5. I think he spelled some words wrong, but 5.5. Also, was this on Apple? Was this on Apple?
This was on iTunes.
Okay, never mind. 5 out of 6. 5 out of 6. Sorry.
5.69 out of 6.
Oh, 5.69.
We're doing that. We're doing that now again.
Yeah, Mark's. We're already that
I'm
early.
Back.
We're doing that.
Welcome back, Mark. Good to be back on another episode with Mark. It's great.
The edgy Infinity Bro.
Nice.
Just great. Love it. I'm glad to be here. We're going to go ahead and talk about She-Hulk Attorney at Law episode 1. You're going to get these updates weekly, so make sure you subscribe to us, as we talked about earlier, to check these out. Before we do that, we want to make sure that you're familiar with our rating system that we just referenced.
Here on the Infinity Bros podcast, everything is ranked from a 0 to 6 point scale. 0 meaning horrible, and 6 meaning absolutely excellent. If all of the Infinity Bros rank something a 6, it gets an Infinity Step.
Additionally, we're going to spoil the entire episode of She-Hulk, episode 1. So if you have not seen it and you do not have a desire to get spoiled from this point on, after this bumper, you will be spoiled. So this is your spoiler warning.
This is...
Prepare yourself.
An Infinity Bros.
Prepare yourself.
Spoiler. Warning.
She-Hulk Attorney at Law focuses on Jennifer Walters as she navigates the complicated life of being a single 30-something attorney who also happens to be a 6'7" super-powered Hulk. It stars Tatiana Maslany, Mark Ruffalo, Ginger Gonzaga, Jamila Jamil, and then others are coming back, but they weren't in this episode. So all I'll say is in one of the commercials, Charlie Cox was in it, as well as Tim Roth and Benedict Wong. There are rumors about other people being in this. We will not talk about those here. You can check out previous episodes to hear our thoughts on that. We're going to start with you, Mark. Mark, will you give us your rating and early thoughts of She-Hulk Attorney at Law episode 1?
Right now, I'd probably say first episode, a good 5 out of 6. I thought it was fun. I didn't think it was perfect. I have some opinions on the design, not the color, but the design of what they do with She-Hulk. I think we're gonna have a fun ride with the show. I think it was you who said it, Max, or maybe it was Robbie. That it's kind of going to be like a Ally McBeal, like funny, like lawyer type of show, which obviously that's what's going to be. And hopefully we get more fourth wall breaks, because that was an interesting thing that we got right away. Or clearly I'm assuming that might be like the first thing that happens every episode. We get that fourth wall break. But yeah, I think overall I had a good time. I can't really say didn't set up anything particularly. Kind of just got the whole like origin story in a snap. So
Robbie, you have been on the record of not being ecstatic about seeing this. I'll let you clarify previous comments you made about 30, 40 episodes ago. But the internet and fans of the Infinity Bros universe, members of the Infinity Bros universe, have been on the edge of their seat for one review. So I'm going to give my review next so that people can hear your review last. Okay. So my review here is I'm going to give it a 4.9 out of 6. Mark pretty much said all the main talking points. I'll say the negatives, then I'll say the positives. The negatives are the courtroom fight in episode 1 left me wanting significantly more. It felt very choppy in its editing. Yes, the CGI is meh, but I didn't have an expectation of CGI coming into it, so that's really not affecting my rating at all. I think they're going to have to really, really be careful in regards to how they do these scenes with her in the courtroom. I agree, Mark. I think it was Robbie that said it, but I totally endorse the Ally McBeal expectation here. I think this show has a lot of promise. What I really like about this show that Marvel does well is connecting other properties. And from my understanding and hearing certain characters that are coming up in episodes 2, 3, and 4, hearing reviews from other people, is we're going to get that expectation fulfilled. Can they execute with humor? I don't know. The humor worked for me, but that final crime or that courtroom scene that was really kind of like, this is She-Hulk, left me wanting significantly more. I like the origin story. I think there's a lot left to be desired in terms of her rogues gallery and their execution of it. I'm very concerned about that. In regards to the origin story, I'm excited. However, this could be the style of show that I've been waiting for as a Marvel fan. This is what I've wanted in terms of a Disney Plus show. So I'm very optimistic. However, I've been very frustrated with Disney shows in the past. So Robbie will now pass it off to you as I tease the audience before they got here. What are your thoughts on episode 1 of She-Hulk?
Gosh, you guys are a little. I think you guys are more down on this than I am. I think you guys are more down on the show than I am. Honestly, I really enjoyed this first episode. And maybe that's because my standards for what this was going to be were so low. I was really worried it was going to be, and yes, I was the one that coined this is Ally McBeal, like, but with superheroes. I think I'm worried that it's going to turn into that. I would say I still have that fear. But I think this first episode, there was some really, really good interactions with Hulk. I was worried about how that was going to go with Bruce Banner Hulk and explaining what happened and everything. I feel like it was very like jarring how that happened, where she basically got the old like Green Lantern like fluid dripped into my scar thing, and now she has superpowers. That was kind of like, oh, okay. But I think they explained it well. The what is the name of the show? The Sicarian ship just showing up and then going away, and the Hulk's like, oh, I'll deal with that later. That didn't fit very well for me, because like, so they just showed up in front of your car and just flew away, like that. I didn't like that. So that one was
scouting for Battleworld.
That was a tough pill to swallow. I struggled with that one, and I did really struggle with the scene at the end, because like just some other big lady burst into the courtroom and starts fighting for no reason, and then she turns into She-Hulk and gets him. And like
exactly
in the background, you can see.
Yeah, well, we're gonna find out the reason.
Maybe, I don't know. If we don't, it's even dumber. But like. In the background, when she's like talking to her friend, and she's like, "You got a She-Hulk right now," and like you could see them in the background. The cops are just like kind of trying to fight this big lady in the back, and it's like the worst looking thing ever. Like that takes away from it. So I think they didn't handle that very well. But everything between the Green Lantern getting the powers bit to the courtroom scene, I thought was golden. I think they handled it very, very well. I loved the She-Hulk versus Hulk fight. I thought the humor was really, really good. I really like this actress. I really like how she kind of phrases things and how the jokes roll off of her tongue. And she does have that like you really do get this single female lawyer. I'm strong. I can do all this, woman vibe thing. But like how she portrayed it was really, really well done. So I was really impressed with the show. I would say I'm more optimistic for this show being good based off the first episode than I have been for a lot of other Disney Plus shows that we've had so far. So I think, yeah, sitting at a 5 on it, sitting right now today at a 5. I am worried though.
I like how you said I poo-pooed it, and I also gave it a 5.
But I expect
Yeah,
I
gave
just
it a
expected you
4.9.
guys to enjoy it more. I think.
I did enjoy it. It wasn't like blow my socks off. But yeah, I could say everything you said. I agree with.
You're kind of nailing it, Robbie.
I think we're all on the same page with it.
But I'm
And
the
then
one that
when
was supposed to hate
then when
it.
we go
So
spoilers,
I
I
don't
think
know.
we'll-
We're just all have the same score.
If you give it a 5.01, Robbie, you have the highest rating of it on the episode.
I think what I actually wanted to say was a 5.
What do you want to do here?
5.25. That's what I'm giving.
Now,
5.25. Final answer.
5.25. It just keeps climbing. It keeps climbing. Jared Buckingdahl, friend of the show, J-Buck Studios, gave a very glaringly negative review of this one, guys. So he called it just a show.
Been on the other end of Jared a few times, but he's watched up through like 4 episodes, I believe.
That's kind of what I was just going to say, Robbie, is he's seen the next 3. So he's got a little bit of a broader perspective than we do. I'll be fascinated to see as these episodes go, do our opinions change? Historically, mine has pretty much been that way, but I'm optimistic like you and Mark are, because one thing I think we're all saying here is the origin story of Tatiana Maslany's character here, Jennifer Walters, is strong. I like that they took time to do this. So let's talk about this episode and let's break this down a little bit here. So we find out that this all happened during a road trip where her and Bruce Banner are driving. We find out that Bruce Banner can keep himself in the Hulk form using this device that he's established. I'm sorry, forgive me, human form that he can keep on his hand. And what's crazy, guys, is you can go back to Shang-Chi and he is wearing that device in the post-credit scene in Shang-Chi. I thought it was great detail. I thought they did a great job explaining how he was like that, because that was a question I had in that post-credit scene in Shang-Chi. And we find out basically what we said. A Sakaran ship crashes their car. And while Walters is trying to get Banner to safety, which kind of made me chuckle a little bit, but that's neither here nor there. He contaminates her blood. And this causes her to transform the Hulk. She has 2 episodes. We'll talk about that in a minute. Here's kind of something that another reason, Robbie, I'm a little frustrated at Marvel about, and this has nothing to do with the episode. This has to do with marketing. I don't think Marvel should have shown this scene to us last week. The opening scene of the car crash was shown to the public, and I watched it and I kind of regret it. I wish I hadn't watched it because that was such a big scene.
I didn't even know it was out, and I obviously didn't see it. So I don't know what you were paying attention to. Was it like put up? Was it?
I did share it in our group chat, and the comment I made was, "Wow, they're already showing us the Sakaran ship." I'm assuming this is from episode 1 or 2. Clearly, someone's going to be on that. We'll talk about that in a little bit, Mark. I'm sure you've got some theories to talk about that. But again, Robbie, you kind of gave me when I said this. Is her helping Bruce felt a little wonky to me. Talk to me about your thoughts on that.
So when he's wearing that device, he's now like he's killable, like because he could have died if he's bleeding because it looked like he was bleeding from his head, correct? Like, so you're saying Bruce is now wearing a device that he can be killed while wearing? Like, that didn't make any sense to me. That was like, okay, you're the Hulk. Like, you think even like if you're going through that sort of event, you would transform because, like he said in the past, I've tried to kill myself before, and the Hulk ate it. Like, so, but now you're vulnerable. That's questionable to me.
But only wearing this prototype wristband type of thing.
Apparently, it works.
And who knows what kind of alien technology?
It felt like a shoo moment, and it felt to me like the Sakaran ship was trying to take away from that lack of understanding in that scene. Like, I think most audience people are like, whoa, who's in the ship? Versus asking the question we're asking right now.
Or, yeah, like, I don't know if this is what you're trying to say. Like, this, whoever's in that ship was testing what Robbie thinks. Like, hey, if he's wearing this wristband thing, will he turn into the Hulk if we crash him? Or do we have time to get him in Bruce Banner form, take him to wherever we want him to fight, and then leave him there type of situation?
Because I think it would be interesting if like Jeff Goldblum as the Grand Emperor, am I getting that right? What Grand Master, if he's like trying to get the Hulk back, Which that's an interesting idea, but then that's like a whole other show. Like you can't connect that into the She-Hulk.
But I think that's a swerve. I don't think it's going to be the Grandmaster because it wasn't the same coloring. And to think that there's only one version of that ship, because he even said later on, like he gave the exact, like, you know, whatever the model that ship was.
It's like a low class,
so like, clearly there's, you know, it could be
scout ship, like Sakarian scout ship.
I mean, the theory right now going around is that could be Scar. So that is his son in the comic books. You know, Hulk goes off for World War Hulk. That becomes his son. He comes back. He's part of the Marvel part of the Marvel comic universe
right now. Actually.
His desire is to kill the Hulk. Like, do we think that's a strategy? Do we think that is a strategy Marvel is going to take with the MCU?
Rumored that that's going to happen. So then that would kind of make sense if that's.
Well, then why didn't they kill him right there?
But here's the thing: could World War Hulk be with this Hulk instead of Bruce Banner?
No, I think they would keep it Bruce Banner. But like that's all a great idea.
I think if you're going to kill Bruce Banner,
that's all sounds really, really cool. But like it doesn't explain why the Sakarian ship would just fly there, see him hurt, and then fly off. Like,
yeah, why would it fly off? Yeah,
right. I don't understand that.
So much speculation what could happen, and it could just be Ralph Bohner flying that ship, and he was just
Mark, I was just going to say that. I'm literally tampering my expectations to Meek flying that ship.
Oh,
that's where I'm at.
Oh, I would love that.
Like they're just screwing with Bruce Banner. So that'd be better than a Ralph Bohner thing, though.
I mean, that would be kind of funny if it's just Thor just messing around with Bruce.
I mean, it could be Jeff Goldblum. I think that's a very realistic thing too. But the internet and the general comic book group, your Jarretts, your Zanes, are going to point to Scar first.
Which is probably more logical. It's another young version of Hulk to bring in.
I mean, that'd be another young Avenger.
I'm literally just saying that.
That's what I'm adding on to what you're saying. I'm saying if they're building this young Avenger group like they've talked about with Thunderbolts, this is another individual you could place in there. I don't know if they're doing it. That's just something that we got to say. I feel like anybody who's talking about this show is hinting at that. So in my opinion, the off the wall theory and what I think we'll find out is we're going to find out it's just going to be a goofy character, or it could be somebody coming to communicate a bigger threat in space. Maybe a Galactus is coming. Maybe somebody's trying to herald that. I don't know.
Who's why am I blanking? The guy that, it's going to bother me. I'm going to have to come back. But there's a famous comic book cover. He has like a mohawk. He has like blue skin. And he's not who probably people, Yondu. He's not Yondu, but
no, yeah.
It's where he's holding up the thing. I'm thinking of that guy. Oh, come back. Talk amongst yourselves.
So Walters gets, okay, this is another part of the origin story that was wonky to me, Robbie, was she blacks out twice. And then, so she blacks out, wakes up, goes to the gas station, has all these women gathering around her.
Yeah.
You can see in the hallway that you can get the QR code. So if you want to go back, the first issue of She-Hulk ever, you can get a digital free version of it if you scan that QR code. It's in the hallway scene. She goes in, meets all these women. They get her kind of taken care of and they check in on her. And you can actually see Miss Marvel's logo.
Okay, here it is. I have to come back.
On the background as well. Go ahead, Mark.
Gladiator is the guy I'm thinking of.
I mean, it could be somebody like that. I mean, it could be Hercules. I mean, Hercules could have come down.
Hercules would have the ability to like, you know, how Valkyrie has her Pegasus type horse. I'm blanking on the name of it. Is like a conduit to travel through dimensions. I would imagine Hercules probably also has a device like that, or his Pegasus also does that. So
getting back to what Max was talking about, I'm okay with the blackout scenes because I think that makes sense in the realm of she's just getting used to like the She-Hulk form. So I didn't have much issue with that.
Do you think the argument that she's picking it up too quickly is going to be similar to Daisy Ridley, Mary Sue kind of conversation? Because I know there's been a lot of people saying, you know, it's getting review bombed by 30-year-olds. That's been the narrative.
I would say no. Like, I didn't feel like I was cheated her just kind of learning it all really fast. Because if you think about it, we don't know how many days really she was there with the Hulk. But she had someone walking her through her abilities. and had similar DNA to Bruce. So it's kind of like, well, I think you just got to take it. You got to suspend disbelief in a sense, because it's also a comic book movie show. So you can't always put everything in real world time, but there it is.
I don't have an issue with it. I thought the montage was exactly what I needed. It covered the bases. I also thought the explanation, which I think some people are going to eye roll at, I think it was fair. I think the explanation that I've been a woman working in this sphere and arena and have been patronized, spoken down to, I thought that worked. I thought that really worked. And that was a very fine line to write that. I thought it was a very...
With my beautiful wife, Kelly, she basically could agree with you on that. Like, yeah, that is very true. I think from a women's perspective, there probably is hundreds, millions of tons more moments that anger is more involved because of what dumbass men, say to them. Mm-hmm. That they have that, because then we live in a society where it's like, well, then you can't outburst on them because then it makes you, society will then think you're weak. But that's a totally different topic to get onto. But I totally agree with
I also agree that I think that's a real possibility. My only counter would be, then why did those three guys outside the bar call her and she instantly changed? Is that just her not being able to control it? But if she's able to control her anger, then why would she have got angry? She understands that that's just going to happen.
Very good point.
I know she's in a tough. She's in a tough spot, obviously, because she just randomly showed up there, and a lot more stress is going on there.
Gamma stuff going through her body. So I think there's also that you could think of, bring into the argument.
But I think, Robbie, you're making a fair point. You're saying we accept that works in the context of this character, that works in the clearly that's the arc they're establishing with her, right? She's like, I'm still going to be a lawyer in this post superhero world. Your rebuttal, Robbie, and I do think it's fair, is show it to me then. Don't just say it, show it to me. And we didn't need her to punch those guys.
Not at that moment.
Not at that moment, right?
Mm-hmm. And we have a few more episodes to, see it all develop. So, hopefully there isn't a tone shift change like there was in Miss Marvel with the show. And
completely. And this is where I think,
in the same line.
I'm glad you're bringing up Miss Marvel, because I was really critical of Miss Marvel. I think the difference here with Miss Marvel and She-Hulk right now is, one, the Hulk has a ton of weight to carry in the story of this first episode. Bruce Banner is doing a ton of nostalgia grabbing.
Yeah.
In things he's saying. And we'll talk about him in a minute here. Okay. So that automatically separates it from Miss Marvel right out the gate. But also the episode itself, Tatiana Maslany, you totally nailed this as well, Robbie. Tatiana Maslany, even with the poor CGI, really sells this character for me. I really, really buy the style and the I'm going home conversation she's having. I thought how she was speaking to Bruce Banner was completely unfair and unjustified, to claim that he needs to work through 10 years of trauma and that he's kind of being a sellout. I thought that was extremely egregious and selfish from her. But I also, on the flip side, thought he was being unrealistic with his expectation of her. I really liked the
superhero now. You have to drop everything you're doing to be a superhero.
Yeah, I agree. I thought it was a completely fair argument on both sides. And I just think that's what Miss Marvel was missing. Miss Marvel didn't have, honestly, I think Miss Marvel needs Carol Danvers. That's kind of what I've come to the conclusion of. I think Miss Marvel's going to thrive with Carol Danvers moving forward. And Miss Marvel leaned into the Pakistani origin, which was totally fine. But the foils of those characters that had to carry a lot of that justification of family origin didn't hold a candle to what Bruce Banner could carry in this.
Right.
For She-Hulk.
I
think the clandestines couldn't do that in the way that Bruce Banner could in this episode. Go ahead, Robbie. You were talking.
This is just a complete sidebar. You're just mentioning Miss Marvel. I watched 2 episodes, and I will get there eventually to watch the rest of it. I was just so uninterested after 2 episodes that I just gave up.
Totally.
So
It's
I'll probably
very
get there
uninteresting. I
eventually,
agree.
but it was so boring.
It's
I
a
just
grind.
did not care.
I would say after episode 2 is when I started feeling like, this is just, I gotta watch it for the podcast. That's how I felt.
Well, now that we've already reviewed it, I have nothing that makes me like have to go watch this thing.
Right.
I'll get there eventually.
So we've talked about Banner. We've talked about Bruce Banner. Let's get into his kind of background here. So Walters wakes up in Bruce Banner's secret lab in Mexico. So we kind of found out where he's been going when he's back on Earth
And
now.
who built it?
And who built it, which I thought was really cool.
Cool.
Kind of seeing the Tony Stark Ultron helmet, where he explains the special genetic conditioning she has that allows her to control her powers. And she's effortlessly able to handle everything that's put in front of her. We talked about the Mary Sue argument that I think some people are going to have. We don't have that argument about her. What did you think about Marvel? Basically, they've had this arm issue for him for a couple years. They fixed that, got rid of it, similar to kind of Hulk's eye in Infinity War. Thor's eye, in Infinity War. Were you okay with that shift? I'd love to ask you guys this question because this is a popular theory. Are you frustrated with how they've treated the Hulk recently? Because there's an audience out there that really, really thinks that Marvel has dumbed down and neutered the Hulk. Do you feel that is what has happened, or do you feel the arc of the character has been justified? Mark, we'll start with you.
This is funny you bring this up because I looked at when they had their spat, there was a scene where they fight, and I'm sure we'll get to that somehow. But I looked at My Beautiful Wife, Kelly, and I said, if she bests him here, it's going to be very disappointing for a lot of Hulk fans. And that happened. And I'm like, okay, this is what people are going to talk about, because if I'm sure most of us know Hulk is one of the strongest Avengers, if not strongest beings, potentially, in the universe. And just to get, again, kind of bested with some clapping and just overcome. Unless we come back to Phase 4 is still all about overcoming trauma, and Bruce just hasn't been able to come over the trauma. That's a good point. And also going to the fact that how much rage just smart Hulk able to use. And maybe this series will also, shift his story where actual Hulk comes back and we get the more, ravaging, destructive Hulk back. And maybe that's why it's being neutered, because they want to show, they want maybe some story they're going to try to tell is something's going to try to take advantage of smart Hulk and then not realize that when real Hulk comes back, they're going to get destroyed. I don't know. That's just my inner thoughts.
That 100% feels like where this is going, Mark.
Because I think, if you keep him as Smart Hulk forever, then people are going to be like, okay, they just neutered him to make it probably easier CGI or, push him to the sideline so then he doesn't have to be involved as much. But
both of those statements are true. Robbie, go ahead. In my opinion, sorry. Robbie, go ahead.
I think I'm actually really on the camp of they've neutered Hulk, and it started in Infinity War when Thanos just destroyed him in hand-to-hand combat without using a stone. And obviously
sure.
that had dual effects, as that was to show how scary of an opponent Thanos is. But I think that's where it started, because obviously that's where the Hulk started getting scared of even turning into the Hulk. I think it alienates an audience that is a big fan of the Hulk because of Hulk smash. And I think there are a lot of people out there that do not like how Marvel has treated Hulk. Now, the argument would probably be that Marvel's done just fine, and without Hulk, they're doing okay without him being a focal point or being the rage monster. But I really do think there's a lot of missed opportunities for the Hulk to just rage and be that creature that so many people actually really, really love. Because the first thing a little kid thinks of when he thinks of the biggest, strongest being is Hulk or Superman. You think of just the strongest guy, and I think they don't have that. They don't have the rage monsters. Just he's stronger than everyone, and he's just going to get stronger, and no one's going to be able to stop him. We've seen now multiple times that smart Hulk isn't that guy. And I was kind of I didn't really think that She-Hulk bested
the governor.
Yeah.
For
I wasn't Hulk got bested by She-Hulk, but the fact that they were able to go blow for blow and she's been She-Hulk for, X amount of days and he's doing this for 15 years, like it is a little disappointing that she's that strong. And maybe he's holding back, and I would love for them to like let him unleash himself a little bit.
On that, remember when she throws the rock farther than him and he grabs another bigger rock and basically chucks it into space. So it's like
he creates an asteroid.
Yeah, basically.
I think there's a couple layers to this. One, I think Infinity War needed to do that because
I agree. I agree. Yeah.
everyone had to lose. So the way they were going narratively, they wanted Hulk and Banner to lose. So I get why they did it. I don't think they reconciled it correctly in Endgame. And if you're going to make two criticisms of Endgame, you're going to talk about Thor and Hulk. Those are the two criticisms you're going to make of Endgame. In the context of this, I actually am very okay with this arc. I'm actually on the opposite side of you guys in the context of I will articulate and agree that he is neutered, but I'm okay with it. I'm not upset with it because narratively, there's really only a couple ways this goes. One, Bruce Banner gets completely separated from the Hulk and that thing goes absolutely ballistic and there's a movie centered around that. Or two, Bruce Banner comes to the realization he's the one holding this creature back and stops whatever procedure he has established for them to be one person again. This Jekyll Hyde thing is going to come back. Marvel's just not going to leave this string dangling. I think they had to do it to set up She-Hulk. I think they had that very clearly thought through going into Infinity War and Endgame. They wanted to set up the next person in line. But I think Hulk is part of the bigger picture. I really do. And I'm okay with sacrificing this 5 to 7 year window to after. I feel like after the multiverse saga, Mark, I think a World War Hulk movie would be the perfect thing to go right into.
After I was going to say, because I feel like Mark Ruffalo he's made comments about maybe his character exiting around King Dynasty or Secret Wars. So,
well, and maybe this is the Civil War we talked about Thunderbolts, Isaac and I, on the Hall H episode. I thought Thunderbolts seemed like the episode to be like the disassembling episode. Maybe the disassembling episode is World War Hulk, where the big characters, the big names in the MCU Earth world send him away. And so he decides, okay, I'm going to kill everybody. And Banner goes, I'm done. My friends just ditched me. I'm out of here. It's yours. Here's the keys. Don't wake me up. Or She-Hulk dies. Something's got to happen to do that. And I think that's going to be part of the bigger story. So that's, to me, I've looked at that and I've been very okay with that with Marvel. And I think Smart Hulk is an okay thing. I don't think it's a bad thing, as bad as other people.
I just hope there's a payoff.
I don't think Disney, because what you're talking about right now is babyface to heel. You're nailing it on the head. And I know that's kind of a joke, but like that's what you're talking about. And I'm just going to say this. I don't think Disney has the balls to do that to Hulk. I don't think they have the balls to do what you're talking about, where Bruce Banner gives up and Hulk goes kill everyone kind of way. I don't think Disney's going to do that. And he can't be the main
character if they do a movie, because they would have to have the total film rights.
Like, I don't think that, Max. I think that's a great idea. I don't think they're going to do it.
I think they got the guts to do it because they just did it with Wanda.
Yeah, and it didn't have a good reaction.
Oh, I don't look at Wanda as a hero. I look at her as a villain. And
I know you do.
She's just misunderstood.
But I'm saying the audience
sacrificed a lot.
The job got done. The job got executed in that movie. Like if their job was to make me look at Wanda as a villain, which that was their goal, and Sam Raimi even watching the behind the scenes stuff.
No, they wanted everyone to feel bad for her.
They wanted her to feel bad, but they also were like, she is the villain. She is the bad guy of this movie. I think that's the same idea here with Hulk. And I think that
Wanda was
the
never
entire world to fight him.
But Wanda wasn't the baby face. Wanda wasn't the everyone loves Wanda. Wanda's always been like.
That's fair. That's a good point. She was just the heel the whole time.
A middle ground to heel character, because she was evil, was kind of good, and then evil again. Hulk went from rage monster to babyface, and now he's been babyface for a long time.
all of what Wanda did could have been resolved if Doctor Strange was just willing to have a conversation with her and be like, hey, maybe we can work together on this, and maybe find a world that your version of you is no longer in that world, and the two kids need moms. But
yeah,
no,
I mean, Doctor Strange is just not a very good superhero either. So I mean,
going back to Endgame, I just want, or to even Infinity War, how clearly all these dudes look like they were teammates, but clearly never talked to each other to deal with all this crap.
100%.
They just went off to like completely forget about it.
Yep. Communication's key, guys.
So
you want AAA, you want the Avengers AA meeting, or Avengers Anonymous. Just AA, Avengers Anonymous. They just get together and they talk about their feelings. They hash this crap out.
Communication is key in any relationship. Without communication, you're doomed to fail. So there it is.
In like 40 or 50 years, maybe not that long, maybe 20 or 30 years, all these guys that played in these Marvel movies are going to get together and there's going to be a documentary just talking about like that this time, and it's going to be awesome just to see them all sit around and talk about it. My mind just thought about that. I'm like, I can't wait for Tony Stark or for RDJ and Cumberbatch just sit around and just talk about this time and what they did. That's a complete sidebar, and my head just went there. But
I think there's a lot of content that's going to be pumped out of this for a long time. You're not wrong, Robbie. This fight, we've talked about it a couple times, with this fight between Banner and She-Hulk. This is kind of, there's two references, in my opinion, to the Incredible Hulk. So sidebar real quick. It's not real. It is, but it isn't. If you watch Legends, which is Marvel's show to talk about characters of where they've been and how they got to the place they're at, it's extremely helpful if you have a friend or a family member that doesn't watch it as much as you, but wants to be engaged through the process. That's my wife. So Legends is what we watch. And the 10-minute thing they had on Hulk was fascinating because, one, they didn't include anything from the Incredible Hulk in it. But also, it was crazy how much story they've packed in with him in 4 Avengers movies and a Thor movie. I just thought it was very impressive how Marvel has done that, like where he started to where he's at now. I think that's another reason why I'm in the it's okay he's a smart Hulk right now camp, is because I think they earned the right to keep him plateaued for a little bit. So it's just a great resource that if you're somebody that's trying to get into this or has a friend who's trying to get into this, check this out. But there's 2 references, I think, to the Incredible Hulk in this episode. The one, I think the meditation is in reference to Edward Norton. I think Edward Norton's character with the meditation he'd do. I don't think that was I think they played it as a joke and Walters was upset about it. But to me, that was a reference to the Incredible Hulk. I was like, that's what I'm seeing right now.
It's supposed to be the same Bruce Banner. I mean, yeah.
It's the same Bruce Banner. I know Disney doesn't want us to talk about it, but it is. The second one is the Hulk clap. Like, the Hulk clap is obviously iconic for the character in the comics, but that's what he did the last time he did that Incredible Hulk. The fight obviously allowed, Mark, you talked about this, She-Hulk bested him, which was extremely disappointing to watch. I agree. But did you feel like the fight was fun to watch and entertaining?
Yes, it was fun to watch and entertaining. But yeah, like, I just don't think they should have went that route. Just you have her have the upper hand in that scenario.
Which is ridiculous given how much combat he has. But they're really leaning into Bruce Banner just isn't a fighter.
I really got the vibe that he just wasn't trying that hard. Maybe I just didn't view it correctly, but I just didn't get the vibe that he was trying all that hard.
When she started clapping, that's where it's like, okay, I feel like
in that moment, yeah. Right.
Why didn't he just
jump out of it? Like, yeah.
Yeah.
But I feel like he just really wasn't trying that hard, and maybe he just doesn't know how to gauge how strong she is. But I think it would be really tough for fans to accept him just getting completely destroyed by She-Hulk first time they fight.
I mean, we got to treat it as a scuffle more than an actual fight. So, like, I think if it was life on the line, yes. If they let She-Hulk win, I think that'd be more devastating at this point versus if it, Hulk would have just probably swept the floor with her if it was a life or death fight.
So then this is when we get into the scene a few months later. Walters goes to the court case, interrupted by Titania. It's because remember it was months ago at the beginning when she said, months ago.
I got you.
Mm-hmm. And then that's when we get the introduction to Titania, which is played by Jamila Jamil. She's tremendous in The Good Place. Go watch that show. Awesome show. And obviously She-Hulk bests her easily. They're describing her as a super-powered social media influencer. So we're going to come to find more information about that out later. But yeah, Robbie and you and I kind of talked about this, but the editing on this scene was very egregious. Just not well edited at all. Basically, they had the scene where she tries to kick She-Hulk and everything else was a jumbled edit mess. I don't really call out the editors of Marvel that often, but I got a little more issue with that than I do the CGI of this episode. I just thought that final scene just did not cut it for me at all. It was really poor. The nitpicks we're making about the origin story, they work because the relationship with Bruce Banner and Maslany's Walters is just great. Chemistry is great. But this scene really was a downer for the episode. Go ahead, Mark.
I'm going to say it felt like a CW fight.
100%.
It was there are better CW fights than that.
Yes, for True TV, not True TV, the station, but like on basic cable, yeah, like that's the type of fight I kind of expect. With Marvel, it just seems like it should be a little better, or at least more crisp, at least with editing, like you were saying, Max.
Well, especially watching these behind the scenes things about. I just got done watching the Doctor Strange one, and to hear how they were planning all of these individual fight scenes and how much time goes into it, I'm like, you couldn't give this scene another 60 seconds. And this gets into the continued problem that these shows have with Marvel. These episodes are too short.
Yeah.
You can't tell me you can't give me another 5 minutes or 3 minutes to go through this fight.
We're just like, explain what the heck is happening.
Like, did you really blow the budget on Hulk?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was so just not well told. And I don't want to hear, oh, we're trying to keep it at 30 minutes. We just got done watching Stranger Things that had 2 to 4 hour episodes. I mean, these episodes for Stranger Things were insanely long.
However, there's reports where Stranger Things might be the reason why Netflix might be having to look to sell because they bankrupted Netflix. So I think that's what you get when you make a 2.5 hour episode.
There's more money in the room for Disney.
I understand.
Netflix is completely different.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah, that's a whole nother fight. But you can make 45-minute and 50-minute episodes.
Completely agree. And you don't have to go big CGI because it's obvious too. They're bringing Maslany back to human form to cut back on the CGI. And I'm cool with that. I get it. I understand how much that costs. And I'm probably not going to dog CGI throughout this show because I just think it was already an extremely difficult task. This character just has such a unique look. For a TV show, this is going to be tough. I expect it to look better in the movies.
I'm not giving it that pass. I'm still not giving it the CGI pass. I don't like your Disney. Like the CGI was better 10 years ago on some of this stuff.
Sure.
Like
I'm not denying that, Robbie. I'm not denying
so
that.
It is a problem. I don't think it's a massive problem. It is a concern. But like bringing it back, the Sandman show, those are hour-long episodes, and they have crazy CGI in that, and it's impressive. It is just downright impressive. Like, and you're telling me that Marvel and DC Marvel and Disney can't do better? Like, I was looking for the CGI to be bad in this. The only like egregious one that I saw was that Hulk was going through that binder and they decided to make all the paper also CGI on the binder. Like, go through and watch that. It looks like a PS2 video game. Like, it's so bad. But like the rest of it, I could accept. I can accept it because it is a show.
Sure.
But like, it's still Disney and it's still Marvel. It needs to be better. They need to get this crap figured out.
This is the last thing for Phase 4. I think this show falls into the category of all the previous shows. I think it falls into the Miss Marvel, WandaVision, Falcon and Winter Soldier, Loki. I think all of these shows were made too early in the process when Marvel didn't have a full grasp on the feedback they were going to get on these shows. And so I think from this point on, they will correct that because I hear the things like Daredevil, 18 episodes. You can't tell me Daredevil's episodes are going to be 30 minutes. They're just not. There's no way. There's no way. They're going to be minimum 45 minutes.
They're going to be 25
and so
minutes.
They're
going to put them on TV.
Don't do that to me. I'm just saying, I think this feedback has been heard. And if there's something that Marvel does well, Robbie, is they take feedback and apply it.
The CGI in Black Panther was bad. That was
the CGI problem is a bigger issue for Marvel though, because they're treating CGI.
But you're saying they apply it.
Right
they haven't applied it.
That's a different conversation. That's a money conversation. I'm talking about storytelling, and I'm talking about executing and putting specific, like John Krasinski. They will hear fan casts. I think Kevin Feige has a very, very good ear for the audience. The CGI argument, I think the audience kind of has to get over that in a little sense, because one, they're trying to rush these projects very quickly. So there's no way CGI is going to be perfect. Two, it sounds like Marvel's going to lowball all these guys, which is just kind of a corporate sucks to suck philosophy. I don't have an answer to that. I don't think that's, to me, a criticism I'm going to be dying on a hill for. I understand. I'm not saying anything you're saying is unfair. That's what I'm saying. I'm not disagreeing with you. It doesn't look good, but to me, it's not going to affect, if the story is strong, the rating of the show.
In the grand scheme of just us giving our reviews, I think if that end scene was better done, I think there was 5 more minutes there and they actually did better writing and explain what's happening there, I think we're all giving it a 6 or close.
I'm over a 5 for sure.
Yeah, but that end scene, and it was short. It was what, 3 minutes maybe?
2 minutes?
Maybe. And it was so bad. It was just so
it just wasn't
badly
good.
done. So that's writing, and that's cinematography, and that's all of that. It's just like, how does Feige, and I don't know if Feige's watching all this and greenlighting every little bit of it, but like, how is he not pissed seeing that and being like, she just like clearly flew on like a string line and went to kick the Hulk? Like, it looked terrible.
I'm sure every episode has, I just want to say this, every episode probably has a budget set, and the director has to decide where that goes. And like, yeah, I'm sure Feige and Esposito have their opinions, but I'm sure to them they're like, oh, this is fine. Like, and at the end of the day, it is fine. It's not horrible. I would never say what happened was horrible. I mean, could have been Tommy Wiseau directing this, and it could have really been horrible, but
could have been really good.
Or really good, who knows? So come full circle, be really good. But and just like Falcon and Winter Soldier, you could clearly see where money was really spent in some of those episodes, and some weren't. So, but still told a way better story and way better.
It just seems, I'm beating the horse here, but like, it seems odd that, shut up. It seems odd that Disney would go, we're going to make a bunch of shows, but we're not going to make these like top dollar best that they can be shows. That just seems like that odd play to me that I don't quite understand. But I guess maybe it's that like, it's a 30-minute show and people are going to get over it and they're just going to move on.
Sure.
And to go off that, I think it's at this point with these shows, it's to get people on Disney Plus to keep subscribing, to build a subscribership. And I think once, and have they surpassed Netflix or something? That's an article I read with subscribers.
Now,
so I think once they get to a point, they're going to, put more money into these shows, because now they have more money coming in. Because right now they're doing an investment. You're not going to put all your ducks into one basket in case, that investment doesn't pan out. Because what if it didn't pan out and they had like an HBO Max situation kind of going on where it's like, oh, maybe Disney Plus won't be around anymore. So where are these shows going to land? So, and like Max said, they probably had these shows planned. So everything now post She-Hulk is probably going to be done a little bit differently because they've heard what the fans want.
I really think it will. I really think it will.
Stuff. And so it'll be interesting the next show that comes out to see how production looks, and maybe it'll be better. Maybe it won't. Maybe it'll be the same. So.
And Robbie, honestly, maybe they won't. Maybe you're right. And like, I think I think you're making very fair points, Robbie. I don't think you're nuts for your feedback at all. I think your take is absolutely justified. My gut tells me the CGI probably on the shows aren't going to ever be to the level we desire. And I think they're sacrificing that for the greater long term. And that's establishing this character in this universe, making her loved and liked. So when it gets to the multiverse saga Avengers portion and she's inserted, then they can go a little heavier on CGI, and then they can give her a little more room to work. And I want to talk about Jessica Gao, who's the writer of these first 3 episodes. She's no slouch of a writer. I mean, she's wrote for Silicon Valley's, Rick and Morty, the new show Easter Sunday. She's part of that. She's done Robot Chicken. She did Kung Fu Panda. I mean, she's got a record that it's like, hey, you know what? I'd like to see her get a shot on a couple of these projects. So it's not like they're choosing bad writers. Like Michael Waldron, I think of him with WandaVision. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, like, and Loki. Those are the people that on paper I want to write these things. So the bigger question here, Robbie, is Feige really saying this is the line you have to stay on? Or, and I know they say the directors tout that they give them creative freedom, but how much are the producers stepping in and going, like, how much is Desposito walking in and going, no, you got to stay here with X, Y, and Z? I don't know. So I don't know. It'll be interesting with this show. Like, does it do, in my opinion, what Ms. Marvel did, which is absolutely nothing? Like, Ms. Marvel just didn't do anything. It didn't have a big, the tension were villains that were incredibly forgettable. Is this what's going to happen with Ms. Marvel? I mean, with She-Hulk, I really hope not.
I think my expectation for this show is becoming what you've been talking about, Max, where it's a show where you get like the real life on the ground feedback from people that live in this world, because we don't have much of that. We've gotten more of that.
If it does that, Robbie, this is going to be one of the best shows.
And I think that's part of it that I'm starting to grasp, because if we go back to my earlier feedbacks, I just don't understand this character, because I don't know anything about She-Hulk coming into this. I've now learned more about She-Hulk, but I was just like, is she like, I always thought, like, is she just like a love interest for Hulk? Like, is that what she is? And it's like, oh no, she's her cousin, like, or she's a cousin, or whatever. And then it's like, but she wants to be an attorney. And I'm like, okay, what does that mean? Like, so I'm more interested now because we're going to get more of a street. She's like the strongest street level type of hero that can be out there, kind of thing. So that does make it interesting. And, you know, bringing in Daredevil and Charlie Cox is, you know, that's a 6 out of 6, no matter what you do. So I am more interested in how they go about it. I think it's a very thin line that they have to stay on, that it could be really, really well done, and people could, and I just personally could really enjoy it, or they could kind of squander what they've already done in one episode, based on the last 30 seconds, and maybe it goes downhill from here. I don't know. I have my reservations about it, but I enjoyed the first episode.
My expectation is lots of cameos, and I don't think that takes away anything from She-Hulk. I want to see her call out and attack these heroes for stupid things they do. I want her to prosecute some of them. That would be great. I think it creates a cool tension, even if she's defending some supervillains. So I love that. I hope they explore that. I expect them to explore that. I hope, Mark, you talked about the fourth wall breaking earlier. I'm totally with you there. I think it's a very incredible decision that they're letting her do it before Daredevil, or I'm not Daredevil, Deadpool, excuse me. But yeah, I really, really, I agree with you, Robbie. I want this show to be as much of the perspective of the people on the ground as possible. And I love that. Mark, what are your expectations of Daredevil? Are you worried that they're going to make him a caricature of what that Netflix show was?
I hope not. I hope they kind of, you know, if anything, like, I hope it's not like a complete change. Like, it's like they're going to say, oh, Netflix people weren't really involved. I hope it's more like it was blip and he's had like a change of who he wants to be and be less violent. I'd rather that be the case, but I'm assuming if they want to launch, you know, more popularity with his show, he's probably gonna be more heavily. I would assume he's gonna be more heavily involved in some of these, in like at least 3 episodes. So that's what I hope happens with Daredevil.
Yeah, we'll see. That's episode 1 of She-Hulk.
One thing I wanted to bring up, because I teased it to you in our Patreons beginning. I have my big gripe for what, you know, I have a 5-4, and it was something my wife brought up, and she was talking to me about it, and I was like, I'm going to bring that up and say, and be like, this is, you know, because I probably wouldn't have said it unless she said it to me, because I was thinking it, and I just thought it was so weird why initially I thought it was so weird why Disney would go this route with with the She-Hulk design of how she looks when she becomes She-Hulk. How, she looks like an avatar, basically, like super long limbs.
Yeah.
And for some reason, they're like, oh, no, what's going to happen when she gets She-Hulk? She's going to get super large breasts. And that's what Kelly said.
And long hair.
And long hair, which, I mean, in the comics, that does happen. She gets, like, long flowing hair. So, like, I can get that. But Kelly said that's, like, it's weird. Why wouldn't she just continue to have curly hair? But it's kind of, like, a little off-putting. It's like, well, and then I thought it's like, well, Disney probably initial design's like, well, we're going to make her sexy because sex sells. And that's what we want versus a more masculine or muscular, I should say, would probably be better. A more muscular version of She-Hulk, more comic accurate, because probably whoever decides the stuff said, oh, that wouldn't sell. People wouldn't like that type of situation, where it's like, I think more people would appreciate that, because clearly if my wife's saying it, what other women are saying that, like, yeah, like, she doesn't have, and this is what my wife said, she doesn't have small breasts, so why does She-Hulk have large breasts? So there it is. And so, yeah, I agree with that. It's like, why do you kind of make it a sex symbol versus just making her She-Hulk?
Well, I think in the comics, she's a sex symbol. I think that's kind of just a reality about this character. I also think, Mark, that I also think, too, this was very intentional from them. And even like the CGI feedback that people have been giving, my favorite, like, you're totally avoiding the question statement back has been like, well, this is the way we want this woman to look. Nobody needs to tell women how they should look. Like, they've been saying that, but they're setting an expectation and a standard. They make her look
like a giant Barbie, so it's like,
that's what I'm saying. They're making her look like an Amazon.
And honestly,
100%.
I think the color in the CGI of like her, like how they make her look like a Green Hulk, I think that looks fine. To me, I think that looks fine. I think how they decided to make her look like a giant Barbie, that's where I have disagreements. Like, well, clearly whoever decided this is like, yeah, the sexiness is going to sell, so that's what we were going to sell to people. So. Just some thoughts.
Robbie, any thoughts? I mean, Robbie, you're a big lifter and this lifting world too. Thoughts from your perspective that we would miss on that?
There was a few times because I was looking at that too. It was like, it almost seemed like her body was changing at certain moments. Because when she was like engaged in physical activity, like her biceps were popping like pretty heavily, and that was something that I remember noticing. But then there's other times where she was just walking around and she just looks kind of like that slender look. So I don't know if that was intentional or not, but that is something that I picked up on, where it wasn't the whole time. It didn't seem like she was like a Barbie. There was some times where she was like cross her arms and her biceps were like popping like crazy. So I was like, okay, but then when she's just standing there, her arms are long and then there's no muscle tone. It's like, you can't, that's not how muscle works. So it's like and I think I said this, like, I might have said this at one other point, like, she looked like I did. The first trailer, I said she looked like a Gumby character. She looked like Gumby. But like, that's kind of what I was seeing in this. I was like, because I kept picking up on it. I was like, here she looks slender. Here she looks jacked and buff. Like, she looks like a woman's physique, like bodybuilder. And then in other moments, she looks like a bikini bodybuilder, where it's more about being slender and long. So
sure.
There was some interesting things that I picked up there that I was like, I don't know what's the plan here. Is she just able to change based on her mood, or like whatever her environment needs? Like that caught me a little off guard, because we've seen in the trailers that she typically has like a longer, slender look rather than like big and bulky. So
it is exactly from the comics, in my opinion, Mark. That's what I'll say. I think it's exactly from the comics. I do think, I don't want to hear the argument of stop telling women how they look if that's how they're going to approach this character. That's what I'm going to say. I'll leave it at that. I think don't as a director get on a high horse on that subject, if that's the direction you're going to go. And you don't have to apologize for going the direction they're going either, because that is how it looks in the comics. It is comic book accurate, but the discrepancies in different scenarios is weird. And to hide behind the CGI questions that people are having behind that, I just don't think that's fair either. I've had that issue. I've really had an issue with the marketing of this show. They've shown way too much of this show. They need to dial back how many clips they're showing.
I don't know. They haven't shown the villain. I always go back to Batman v Superman, where they showed his dark side, where it's like you could have kept that from us.
That's true.
You mean
We
so,
could have gotten
you know.
the last 5 minutes of the movie. You're absolutely right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Well, there you go. That's She-Hulk episode 1 on Disney Plus. We liked it. We promise. We just got a lot of gripes.
We did.
We'll be back next week to check this one out. What are your thoughts? You can email us at the Infinity Bros podcast at gmail.com. You can check us out on Discord, Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, and Facebook, and reach out to us there. Robbie, what's going on with you? Where can people catch you?
The Infinity Bros.
you doing any streaming? Anything I can promo for
Max
you?
wants to know where your next underground fight club is.
I can't disclose that information. I'm doing football right now, and I'm going to be the JV coach. So Mondays are going to be a no-show for me on Twitch continually.
JVHC, let's go.
Well, I don't know about HC. We don't really put a title on it, but we'll have fun. It's
Clearly
it's football time, and my life gets busy, and I know Max understands that.
Heard that. Mark, what about you? You gonna be doing any streaming or anything lately?
Streaming? No, I don't have the capabilities of that right now because I'm raising my child. Because I'm a stay-at-home dad now.
You got a great Aquaman shirt, though.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I love being a stay-at-home dad.
You're doing a great job at that.
Yep,
Your child's not dead. You're doing a great
still
job.
alive.
Wow.
Can hold herself up. She's super long. She's probably gonna be 6'2". Cross my fingers. D1 basketball.
Do you
player.
think Zane can jump farther than her?
No, I think my child could jump farther than her right now.
Yeah.
Okay, so we did broad jump testing today. Okay, so I have to get into this real quick. And this is for Zane because Zane can't do it either. So I told the guys, like, my son jumps 50 inches. Like, so if you don't jump 50 inches, like, my 5-year-old son is better than you.
But your 5-year-old son's like 8'10" and like super athletic.
He's like 4'2". I just measured him yesterday.
So he's close to being 8'10".
We only had one kid. We had one kid jump 49.
So when your kid makes to the NFL, what's like your game plan? Are you going to be
no?
Like,
it's the solder curse. He's going to get really big.
You gotta spread the wealth when you're a millionaire.
Yeah, that's right. That's true. But it's the solder curse. He's going to get really big up until he's about 11 or 12, then he's going to stop growing. That's how it is.
Tale as old as time.
That's how it is.
Tale as old as time. He needs to get some of that Bruce Banner blood put in his veins.
Yeah, we just got to, crack open Bruce Banner's head real quick.
You, son, open your arm. It's time.
It is time.
Well, Mark, thanks for coming on again today. I felt like we didn't get too deep in the weeds this time around. It's a shame.
Well, I think we just got the setup. Maybe when some more spicy stuff happens next week, we'll have some weed talking.
We'll find out. We'll find out. Oh, we didn't talk about one thing. Mark.
Yes.
What?
We forgot to talk about the post-credit scene.
Yes,
yeah.
we did forget it.
We got to talk about the post-credit scene. Hold on. I'm glad this is at the very end here. Mark, did you appreciate the reveal that Captain America was not a virgin?
It was never a thought that crossed my mind until watching that episode, and them basically confirming that he did have relations with a woman.
He had the sex.
And most likely unprotected sex. To me, it was just like, they're setting something up for a child of his, whether has some of his abilities, if he's able to pass that down. If he's able to pass it down. Well, hang on.
The kid would be 8
or
years old.
A grandson of his, or granddaughter. So
now you're stretching here.
Well,
you just pulled something.
Go back to the Patreon.
Yes, go to the Patreon.
Go back to the Patreon. Mark and I talked about this. Talked about that.
You don't drop that nugget without there being a payoff down the line. That's
an exclusive. That's an exclusive Patreon theory from Mark and I.
I think that I don't. That's the one thing about Phase 4 that I think is terrible. Is that the end credit scenes do not matter.
Oh, Shang-Chi's was awesome.
Shang-Chi's was awesome, but most of them don't matter.
You haven't seen Thor: Love and Thunder, so
You're right.
Awesome.
Oh yeah, you haven't seen Thor: Love and Thunders yet. He's right, actually.
You're right.
You're right.
You're right. All right. 80%.
I liked those
You're
too,
right,
Mark.
Doc.
Mark, I agree with that. Mark, I agree with that. They were good. Those were good. Those are good. I agree with that.
But the only bad thing I will say about that is that I did watch this with my kids while they were in the room, so they did get to hear that entire spot.
That's great.
So that was like, oh, this episode's like, there's a few things that I wish like it would have been a little quieter and they wouldn't have heard it. But then that one, I was like, oh, awesome. So
Well,
there
you
was
can't
that.
have another thing that Zane has up on your children. You gotta always continue to be on the even playing field or better than Zane.
It's not hard.
Grayson sleeps more than 3 hours a night. He's always going to be better than Zane.
Robbie, thank you for coming on.
I'm happy to be here. I hope Scott is thrilled with my review.
There you go. Thank you, Infinity Bros Universe, wherever you listened, however you listened. Thanks for making us part of your podcast experience. As we talked about at the beginning of the show, you can check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Twitch, Discord, TikTok, and of course, you can subscribe on Patreon. All of these links are below in the show notes. Have a great rest of your week. We'll see you guys next week. As always, we love you guys 3000. See ya. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the Infinity Bros podcast. You can find the Infinity Bros on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at the Infinity Bros. Feel free to send listener feedback via email at infinitybrospodcast@gmail.com.